you, Jesus. The Spirit lives within me. Sing it. Say my victory. Say my victory. Your Spirit.
Good morning. Welcome back to Beautiful Moms. We're so glad that you're here with us today. We have a really fun morning and informative morning planned for you. We have Kelli Wild, who is a licensed clinical therapist who's going to be talking to us about positive parenting. And she has a real focus in dealing with children and families. But before we bring her up, we're going to invite Debbie Altman to do her 2-minute scripture share. Thanks, Debbie.
So I went skydiving this past weekend, and I was thinking the whole way up that I'd much rather jump out of that plane at 14,000 feet than have to get up here on stage to talk. Anyway, we're called beautiful moms here because being a mom is an incredibly beautiful thing. My husband, Craig, and I founded this church. I'm a registered nurse. I worked with troubled teens, and I've done a lot of things in my life. But the most important thing that I've ever done is be a mom. We are all so aware. I hear it at my table, and it breaks my heart when I see moms that feel like if they're simply a mom, they're just not enough. And our culture has highly devalued the profession of motherhood over the last years. Motherhood is just viewed as just simply not being prestigious enough, glamorous enough, sophisticated enough, intellectually stimulating enough. There are no Nobel Prizes or Academy Awards given out for motherhood. But I just wanted to encourage you today that motherhood is of prime value to God and to our society. Psalm 127, 3-5 says, "Children are a gift from the Lord. They're not a curse, they're not a nuisance, and they're not a burden." It says that they are like arrows that we send out into the world. We have more power to shape the future and influence the world through our mothering than almost anything else we can ever do. Our children are the missionaries that we send to the next generations. Isn't that a powerful statement? I love that. Who is going to teach the next human beings that inhabit and lead this country character, work ethic, values, godliness? Who are going to be the lionesses who are going to defend and fight for their children? You. It's you. The world doesn't value mothers, but they have it all wrong. And that's why the family is crumbling, children are lost, and our world is hurting. Andrew White, an American diplomat and educator, said, "If the time should ever come when women are not Christians and houses are not homes, then we shall have lost the chief cornerstone upon which civilization rests." You, all of you ladies right there at those tables, are molding and affecting the world in bigger ways than you can ever imagine when you feel like all you're doing is wiping sticky hands, wiping countertops, and wiping heinies. In Luke 16:10, the Bible says, "Be faithful in the little things." And I love the way Hannah Brencher, our recent conference speaker, put it, small things on repeat. Small things on repeat. That's what creates greatness. And if there was ever a description of motherhood, it would be small things on repeat. But every wipe, every hug, every word of encouragement, every prayer, every story, every meal you prepare is making a difference. William Wallace said, "The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world." You rule, mamas. Men and women of greatness throughout the ages have credited and honored their mothers for the people that they have become. Abraham Lincoln said, "No man is poor who has a godly mother." So I just want to encourage you today, girls, don't ever be ashamed that you are simply a mother or feel that you're not contributing. There is no value that can be placed on what you do every day. I know from experience that motherhood can be hard and exhausting and frustrating. I know there were so many days when I just felt like my kids just aren't getting it. I laugh about my daughter, except for her, because after she had children, she decided that she must have been the perfect child because she couldn't have possibly acted that way. She was pretty great. But the Bible tells us, don't grow weary in doing what is right, for in due season you will reap a great harvest. So keep showing up, ladies, teaching, training, loving, disciplining, because you are planting amazing, good seeds in your children. And what you've planted is going to grow and mature, and it will overtake your children. I promise you. So laugh and cry and try to cherish all the moments you can, and just be immensely proud of your calling as a mother. And just remember one last thing. In Proverbs 31, it says, "Your children will rise up and they will bless you." And I just bless you today. I am so proud of all of you for all that you do. You're amazing. So grab that and run with it. I love you. Oh, Psalm 127, 3 through 5? Okay.
Thank you, Debbie. I feel like I need to hear that every day on repeat. Let me just play that over and over again. Thank you for your encouragement. So next, I'm going to bring Kelli Wild. Please help to welcome her to the stage. She's going to be talking today about positive parenting. You have your own.
That was so good, Debbie. You made me tear up. Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Oh, are you guys going to put the picture of my family? They were going to show you my family. This is an old picture, and I realize as your kids get older, you don't really have as many family photos. So this is a little blurry, but like 3 years ago. And that's my husband, Dean, and we will be married 25 years in May. And woohoo, we made it! The one behind him, the oldest, is Luke. He's 23 now. Caleb will be 21 next week. Anna, on your left, just turned 17, so she'll be a senior next year. And then our little caboose, Sarah, is 11. So we are going to be ancient by the time we're done raising kids. And, you know, as they get older, it's easier. They actually do smile on command when you tell them to, but they still fuss about it, like they don't want to take pictures. So, okay, well, I'm going to be mindful of time. We're trying to save a little bit of time for some questions at the end if we can. And I just wanted to ask you all, is there anyone here who feels like they have to repeat themselves over and over and over again to their children? Anyone? Okay. So that is actually everything Debbie just said, right? The small things, do it again. We kind of have a joke now. I am finally like really seeing the fruit of the labors. Like my second one, Caleb, he says, "Mom, it really is a good thing that you taught me I should look people in the eye when I talk to them." Or how to do like a proper handshake, right? I mean, you know, he's becoming a young man now. He's in interviews and having to present himself and kind of realizing, but I tell you, if I had to tell that kid one more time to look at people in the eyes at church when they say hello to him, oh, I thought I would lose it. So I just want you to know that's so normal, and some of the science behind it is when we are teaching and training our kids, this is going to discourage you a little, but hang on, okay? It actually takes 200 to 300 repetitions of a behavior to create a new neuroconnection in the brain. So think of it like the record player. You guys had some of you did, you're young, but they're back, okay? And you had a record playing, and sometimes it would get kind of a scratch in it, and it would get caught in a certain groove. So if we had to pop that needle out so a new portion of the song could keep playing, sometimes our kiddos are in kind of these negative little patterns, and we need to pop that out and create a new one, but it takes multiple repetitions for that to happen. So that's like 200, 300 times. That's why I was always saying, look people in the eyes, show mommy your eyes, blah, blah, blah. But research also shows us that when we do something in a fun way, okay, we only have to do it 20 to 30 times for it to become a newer pattern. So that's helpful. It's still a lot, but it's not 300. So let me give you a quick lesson here with my plants. And this is like really following up what Debbie said about, plant those seeds. So we do have to do the work to plant things. But then what we want to do with our attention and our focus is we want to water what we want to see grow. Okay, so now I know cactuses are like cacti are in, and they're really cool and they're cute, but I just use this cactus to kind of represent that negative behavior, like it's a little prickly, right? Like, we got to work on that, okay? So if I'm constantly watering, obviously that wouldn't be good for my cactus, but I'm paying so much attention, I'm putting energy all here on this negative behavior, I'm not going to move the needle as quickly or efficiently as when I can pour attention and focus and teaching on the positive, on the behavior I actually want to see occurring. So what happens a lot of times, we all get in these patterns, and I see it with families that I work with all the time. We're kind of in this negative cycle, right? Prickly behavior, we're yelling, we're consequencing. Now, do we need appropriate consequences? Do we correct misbehavior? Yes, we absolutely do. So please hear me say that. I'm not saying this is unicorn fairyland and all we're going to do is this over here. We have to know how to handle that. But for the purpose of my little 20 minutes, we're going to focus over here today. I want to help give you some practical tools for the 20, 30 times of repetition on the positive end to teach the behavior we want to see, and how do we water that and help it grow. So the first fill in is water what you want to see grow. And it does take some mindfulness, it takes some awareness to go, maybe if I really think about it, I'm kind of watering the cactus. I'm spending so much time yelling and correcting and focusing on that, but have I really, really spent some sufficient energy on teaching the positive? So with that in mind, your next fill-in is we want to teach in the green. So think about that little bit of research I shared with you, 20, 30 times in a fun way means we're in a good space. So I always like to use this. If you guys have, talked to me, I'm always getting my little engine out here. But kind of think of your kiddo in this way. So, and us too, right? Blue is kind of our engine's really low. We might even be kind of sad or down. We're sleepy. We're having a hard time kind of perking up. We have some kiddos who can be that way. We need to help them get their engine going. Green's when we're in that good space. That's the child you like, right? Sure, Mom, sounds good. I'll do it. Okay. Yellow is we're getting a little testy. You know what that is, right? Whatever your version is, little 4-year-old lawyers, and somehow we're going back and forth with the 4-year-old. I don't know how that happens. And then red is just full on, like they are totally dysregulated. They're having their tantrum. They're shutting down, whatever that looks like for your kid. But we can be red too, right? So what often happens is we try to teach our children when they're in the red or when we're in the red, right? Do you guys ever do? I mean, I've done that. So kids, and I will want to say right here out loud, some of you have kids who have very little yellow. They go from green to red really fast. And some of us do that too, so we have to kind of work on that. But, and we have classes for that. Okay, so, so here's what happens. We're in the red, and so let's just say, it started out prickly, and then it just went downhill from there, right? They're fussing and tantruming, whatever's going on, and then we're just watering that puppy. We're just joining right in there, and we're yelling, right? And what are we trying to do? We're trying to teach, aren't we? Why are you doing that? I've told you 1,000 times you need to do it over here, blah, blah, blah. Well, when a child's brain is in this state, they really are not able to process very well, and they're really not able to learn. And isn't the goal of discipline is to teach, right? The root word, disciple, to teach. So we're always talking about we want to get to the heart of our children. We can control external behavior, and to some degree we have to work on that. But the end goal, right, is the heart. And so when I'm teaching in this red, it's harder to get to the heart. So we need to get everybody down to a nice, calm place. Now, we may have to correct misbehavior. We have to deal with some things. But in order to teach, we want to be in that green, including mama. So sometimes I have to go, I need to go put myself in my room right now so I can calm down, and I'll come back and talk to you in a bit. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little example of how you can do that. Does anybody have kids who don't get along or fuss with each other? Okay. So I just wanted to prove that I too have experienced that. So my end goal was raising children whose hearts were turned towards each other, and you want your kids to be best friends when they grow up and love each other and be there as family, and we stick together and all of that. And thank the Lord, my boys actually really have landed in that place. They really are best friends. But, it wasn't without a lot of effort. So this was their sister's American Girl doll. And you guys know how much those cost. This was like her big Christmas gift one year. And I don't know if you can see the strategic marker on her lips, but one of her brothers did that. And we found that out after it happened. And so anyway, and I also recently found out that they used to duct tape her Barbie doll to the tetherball. And then they would hit it like just out of her reach. And I know you guys are looking at me as if you're afraid, but I'm just telling you that. I just want you to know that, this is part of the day in and the day out, and you did what? And I didn't even know that was happening, or surely I would have stepped in. I thought they were playing nicely in the backyard. So anyway, here's an idea. So let's say you particularly find your kiddos struggling in their relationship with each other, fussing, they're not sharing well. I'm kind of aiming towards younger ages in here. I know a lot of you have kids at different levels, different ages, different levels of development. So everything I'm sharing with you, the principle applies to all ages. You just have to tweak it according to the child that you're needing to meet their need. So let's say I had little ones, and I'm like, I am so over this fussing with each other. This is my thing I'm going to work on. And I used to always identify like one thing. If you're trying to deal with 20 things, but just kind of think like, what's that one thing? Let's call that the lead domino. So if I could improve this one thing and I could tap on it, it's probably naturally going to touch some other areas in the household. But I just feel like I am watering this cactus over and over with these fussing with each other. So that's going to be my one thing. So I'm going to find a time when we're in the green, and not in the heat of a moment, another time. And we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about maybe what it means to be kind and respectful in our house, okay? So that's one of our family rules, be kind and respectful. And we're going to talk about what that means, what that looks like, and maybe specifically what Mommy wants to see this week is you guys working on how to share your toys kindly, okay? And then you actually, so you don't want to just talk about it, you want to do it. Okay, so that little new groove in the record, talking only gets you so far. You actually want to practice it. So you would say, let's practice right now and try to make it fun. So I'm going to put some music on, and we're going to dance, and then when the music stops, I want you to ask your brother, may I have a turn with the Legos? And then you're going to respond, sure. Or you're going to respond, I'm still playing, I'll give you a turn when I'm finished. So I need you guys to put your creative juices on. You're going to talk at the tables, but pick a behavior and then figure out how can I kind of teach this in a fun way. I'm going to give you another example of a couple things, but in terms of your kids, you could play a game. Maybe you're playing Candyland together and they're having to take turns. And that's a fun thing to play a game, and you've talked about being kind and respectful and waiting your turn, and you're coaching them in the language. Then you might say, so this week, every time mom or mom and dad or whoever is in the household catches you being kind and respectful to your brother, to your sister, I'm going to drop one of these puffs in your little container. So I like little puffs. But listen, guys, everything right here is from the dollar store. Okay, this costs I had this already, so I didn't have to buy that. $2. It does not need to be Pinterest worthy. It could be a baggie, and you could drop a raisin in it, and that is cool, okay? So I'm just going to find a way to sneak around and be like, I'm going to catch them doing right. So that's number 3. I'm going to catch them doing right. So when I see it, now remember, it may not be perfect. The child may not say, oh, certainly, brother. When I am finished, you may have a turn. But even if it's just you noticed they tried, they waited, they didn't jump for the, the normal response, you might step in and go, I saw that. I noticed how you paused and you were really thinking before you responded to your brother. I love that self-control. And just do that. Just walk away, okay? So what you're doing is an immediate little, I see you, right? And don't we all appreciate that? I mean, it's funny because as grown-ups, think about it. If you had a sales position, are you motivated to make more sales because your boss docks your check every time you don't? Or because you're affirmed in some way when you're doing it right? Even if it's a verbal thank you, even in that setting, it might be some type of monetary reward. It's just human behavior. So we just want to say, I saw that, you're heading in the right direction. And then what I would do is pick a number. You want it to be a little stretch, but not too far of a stretch for your child. So if I'm working with a 3-year-old, they might need just 3 puffs. And if you get 3 puffs in your little container, guess what? Get 1 little M&M out. Now, I'm not big into sugar because a lot of the kids I work with, we need to not be doing a lot of sugar. But if you're gonna use sugar, use it to your advantage. That's what I always say. So find a little something that floats their boat, maybe a little sticker. Maybe every time I catch you doing right, I'm going to do a little stamp on your hand, and if you get 3 stamps by the end of the day, you can pick a little treat, or you get a extra, you play a game with mommy or daddy, so just a little reinforcement. If you're working on sibling stuff, what I like to do is, this is Susie's little thing, and this is little Sarah's, and when they get their 4 or 5 or whatever it is, they get their little personal affirmation. We're never using this as, well, do you see how your sister has 5 and you don't? No, right? This is, great job, honey. Great job, honey, right? One-on-one with that particular child. But then what I do is this. I pour them in here together, and they have a bigger goal they're working on together. So we're going to cheer when somebody gets a puff, because ultimately we're working together on that. And maybe when it's filled, this would be too big for little ones, but do the sizing accordingly, because you want them to work, but you don't want it to be so. This is a mistake sometimes we make. We set up these really huge, it would take them 6 weeks to get it, and that's just not going to be effective. Depending on their age, it needs to be a stretch, but it needs to be attainable, okay? So let's say when we fill this up working together, Mama's going to take you for Yogurt Mountain. Or no budget for Yogurt Mountain, we're going to the park. Just something special, but they're working on it together. So we want to catch them doing right. Number 4 is effective praise is behaviorally specific. So let me give you an example. When I did the one about catching that sibling exercising a little bit of self-control, I very specifically said, I saw how you paused and thought about it before you responded to your brother. Great job governing yourself, or great job with self-control. It could be, I just loved how when I asked you to put your shoes in your closet, you said, yes, Mom, and you went and did it right away. That was a great job listening the first time, bud. So do you see how I very specifically behaviorally described the exact behavior that was thumbs up? I watered that good plant. Now, if I had said a generalized statement like, great job, honey, that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But you see the power of the difference? Great job is, okay, cool. But I don't know from that, what should I repeat? So look for those opportunities to catch them doing right and then be behaviorally specific. Now, guys, we don't have to be weird about it or do it every single time, or because sometimes you don't want it to become unnatural. You don't want it to seem too forced. But in the beginning, it's maybe not natural for you. You have to kind of force yourself to practice it until it's a little more natural. But if I'm working on a lead domino, I'm going to try to catch them doing right, and I'm going to be real specific about what I've caught so that they know what I want to see repeated. So here's a little skill that I teach families and used with my own children, and it's called the listening and following instructions skill. And the reason I included it is this is kind of a big one for most families, a lead domino. Wouldn't we all like our children to listen and follow our instructions, right? So here's how you teach that. So you're going to find a green moment, and you're going to say, guys, Dad and I have decided, or we're going to work on listening and following instructions because Mommy doesn't want to fuss, and you don't want Mommy to fuss, and we need to get better about this. So then you're going to teach this skill. So when I call your name, I want you to give me your eyes. Why do we do that? Because where the eyes go, the brain follows. If you're trying to talk to your child and give an instruction while they're playing a video game, right? Doesn't work. That needs to stop, be put on pause, give mommy your eyes. All of these are not to be power struggles. If you can do it in, hey, sweetheart, let me see those big brown eyes. Especially little ones, we're cupping the face, we're teaching them. Ultimately, we just want it to be a family thing that when your name is called, the person would look at you, right? Okay, so then I'm going to say, I have an instruction. Now, you don't have to get all tied up with the language, but initially, if this is really a trouble area, I actually do encourage families to use that scripted language because it becomes a cue. I have an instruction. Hey, look at mama. I have an instruction. I want you to put your shoes in the closet. I said what I wanted the child to do. Another thing people get a little bit messy with is asking. If you want your child to do something, you need to tell them. Don't ask them. So asking would sound like this. Will you put your shoes in the closet now? Well, that's optional, okay? Because that's like a yes-no question. So if I want you to do something, I'm going to say, sweetheart, put your shoes in the closet now, please, okay? Then I want the child to respond, yes, ma'am, or yes, mom, whatever is your family's thing. Why? Because when they verbally acknowledge it, it locks the brain in. And also, as they get older, and you guys who have older kids know this, they love to use the, what? I didn't hear you say that. Well, when you say yes, ma'am, right, or yes, mom, I know that you heard me. Now, go and do. Okay, go and do. So when you're getting the back sass, I have an instruction. I want you to put your shoes in your closet. But I don't want to do it now. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm sorry. What do I need to hear? Yes, ma'am. And you have little ones, you're giving them the language. What do I need to hear? Mommy needs to hear, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, close enough. Go and do. Okay, so don't get hung up on the perfection. It's good, better, best. We got to start at good. We got to say, great job saying yeah. Okay, go. Okay? And then ultimate good, better, best is we're teaching them to come back and check in when they're done. That's like higher level, right? I've finished, mama. May I ask for another instruction? Okay, that's probably not going to happen. But we do want them to come back and say, I'm done, mom. And then eventually I like them to say, I'm done, mom. Is there anything else you need? That can happen. Debbie's laughing. You can prompt it. You could say, I want you to check back and I want you to, just, it'd be kind in our family to, like, if you see your dad is still working, for you to say, Dad, is there anything else I can do to help you? Rather than you did your one thing and then plopped yourself on the couch. So we're teaching other-centeredness. But we have to start with these small things. So if that were my thing, I'd introduce it in the green. I'd use a little something to catch them doing right. And I would play a game with them, especially little ones, where we're practicing this. You can hide I would do the opposite. Have 7 little objects in front of you and say, okay, we're going to practice now. I have an instruction. I want you to put the purple cup on the table. And then when they do it, they get a little sticker. And if they get all the little stickers, you can give them a little something special. But you see, you're teaching in fun, right? So that's one of the 20 to 30 times of doing that skill on the good, positive side, as opposed to yelling and screaming when it's not done. Now, am I going to have to correct misbehavior? Yes, I am. But I'm going to get more bang for the buck when I water what I want to see grow. Okay? So that's our thought for today. And I think we have a few minutes for a couple questions. Where's Wendy? Oh, there she is. Are we good? Are we good? Okay. If anybody has any questions. Anybody? Oh, yeah.
Sorry, can you use that just in case other
Okay, so how do you handle the child that then tries to control the things, and you can walk away and you'll come back and it'll be full of that?
Okay, so when I'm initially teaching it, I'm going to address that from the beginning. So I'm going to say, and the only person who touches puffs is mom or dad. Do you understand? Yes, mommy. Do you touch a puff? No. Do you go near the puffs? No. Then if I'm a little worried that they'll be tempted by that, this is going to go up out of reach. So it's not an option. You don't, with this thing, we're working on catching them doing right. You really don't want to turn it into bad job. Now I'm going to take all the puffs out, because it's just catching them doing right. If they're misbehaving, we need to correct that, but this is watering the positive. So I would talk about it. I would, if I did see that, we would have to talk about it, and probably that puff they just earned maybe would have to go back. But I'm going to put it up so it's just really out of temptation's way. And, you can do literally get a Ziploc sandwich bag and tape it up high onto the wall. I mean, sometimes we'll do it that way, here's a little bag for each kid, it's out of reach, but mommy can go up and just pop one in real quick. Does that help? I feel like you're but you don't understand. Oh, climbers. You just grease the wall below where you've hung it. I mean, if they were disobeying in that way, I may need to correct that behavior, just like I would in any time they were not following instructions. But as far as this goes, that might help you kind of set it up from the beginning, addressing the possible things that can go wrong. It's always good to talk about that up front.
I had a question about, so they're supposed to say, yes, mom, yes, dad. If they're doing the whining beforehand, and say you've been practicing this a while, this is not new.
Okay.
How many opportunities do you give them to say, yes, ma'am, and go do it before you do inflict a consequence, do you think?
I think if I were continuing to see the whining and the fussing, I might restart all of this with a sit down of, hey, we're noticing that when we give you an instruction, we're kind of hearing this, and make it fun and laugh. And let's talk about what mommy and daddy are expecting. Yeah. And I would restart this whole thing and hone in on it. And then when it's happening, you're just going to call it out real quick with a possible redo. Mm-hmm. So I might say, oh, I don't think I just heard what? What do I need to hear? Yes, mom. Let's try that again. Mm-hmm. So I would help that along. If they are really not and they're continuing up, if I'm working on this, I might say, you know what? I'm going to need you to sit down on the couch right now, and mommy needs you to calm down for a bit, and then we're going to try this again. And when we come back and I give you an instruction, I'm going to expect you to say yes, ma'am. Or yes, mom. So right now, you're going to go sit on the couch and think about that a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. Did that help, Dara? I didn't say the exact number. I might give it, depending on age, a time. If I'm working on it, I'm going to have some grace for the working, and then I may be redirecting to, you need to think about this, and we're going to come back and try again. Actually, the redo is the strongest teaching opportunity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. So she's saying, you read about first-time obedience, you read about having a little grace, how many times, what's grace and then what's just permitting misbehavior, right? My end goal is developing a person who can listen and obey the first time. But there's still always some room for grace with that. So I guess my thing is, if we're working on it, so I would go, gosh, this is a bit of a cactus. It's feeling a little prickly. Maybe I need to restart. and hone in on this one thing, I would pull them all back. And my kids will tell you, when I did this, it was like, and here's what we're working on. They knew that meant I was going to be on it. But we're trying to water the positive and then also deal with it. So this is what that means. Mommy may give you one opportunity to correct yourself, and this is how I'm going to do that. If I feel like you continue to fuss, I'm going to have you sit for a minute and think about it. And then when you come back, we're going to try it again. So I might offer that opportunity while I'm training that issue. Yeah, it's hard to have, like, this is the whole thing with parenting. Like, if there was one book that fixed all these kids, we'd all be done with it, but there isn't. So you have to take your unique little human being and your unique family and kind of feel that out. The thing we don't want to do is get into the pattern of watering the negative. And watering the cactus in that situation is letting the whining go on and giving them a chance and a chance and a chance. You see how we're not really dealing with the behavior? Okay. Anybody else?
So I have a 3-year-old with very little yellow. He just, goes green to red. When I give him 2 choices, I pick both the choices. Do you want strawberries or blueberries for lunch? He says, I want strawberries. Are you sure? Yes. Cut the strawberries, put them on his plate. I wanted blueberries. I mean, literally insert any other shirt, shoes, whatever. Do I stick to it and be like, you picked strawberries? Or like, do I pick that battle, or do I just give him blueberries because both choices were good in the first place?
That's a good question. I bet every mom understands what you're going through, especially at age 3. I would probably stick to the strawberries because, just wanting to kind of follow through on that and not, again, I'm giving like a general answer. There's always some outliers and, but because I just don't want to start this pattern of we've made the choice and now we're going to change it. Now I want the blue cup and the red cup, because we're really not trying to have them be in charge, right? We want to share some power, but not have them be the little rulers. So I might say, oh, it looks like you're upset and you don't want strawberries right now, so we'll put them aside when you want to calm down. And maybe we need to go calm down and kind of come back to it, but we're going to have strawberries, sweetie. Yeah. So I think your main question is, do I bounce back and forth? I would say in general, you want to be characterized by sticking to it. Occasionally, when we're really having an issue or our kid's having a hard time, or maybe we've given an instruction and they want to change that, there is a way to teach them to ask, Mom, may I have a compromise? Or Mom, may I ask you something? And then we might change that. But at 3, we want to kind of stay inside the funnel, and we want to keep our choices limited, which you're doing a great job of. We don't want to give them all this control before they're ready for it. He needs to learn right now, or she, I'm not sure, a boy. He needs to learn right now, we got to be okay with the limits Mommy's giving you.
Thank you. I think we have time for just a couple more questions.
My kids are a little bit older, at 9 and 12, and they've been pretty good so far about listening most of the time, but with the increase in age, they're starting to exert some independence. Mm-hmm. And so now, once in a while, we'll get, yes, Mom, I'm coming, just a minute. And that just a minute is that little bit of disrespect, and then they forget about it, or then I have to start repeating, hey, I asked you to empty the dryer, what do I do with that just a minute to correct?
Okay, so I would probably sit down at the table in a good green moment and just say, hey guys, here's what I'm noticing. So Mama asked you to do something, you say, yes ma'am, that's awesome, but then I'm kind of getting this like just a minute, which is turning into 20 minutes, and I'm really feeling like you're not listening and following instructions. So let's talk about that. Okay, so when you're doing that, what's actually ending up happening, so us as adults, right, it's like a passive disobedience sometimes, because I know some kids who actually never end up it's kind of a, sure, Mom, and then, they hope you're going to forget. So what mom wants to see is, yes, mom, and then what are the steps of the instructions? Go and do. So when I ask you to do it, I'm actually asking for you to do it right then. Now, because of the ages of your children, it would be appropriate to be introducing that, Mom, may I ask you for a compromise, or Mom, may I ask you something? They could respectfully say, Mom, would it be okay if I finish this last paragraph of my homework and then go and change the laundry over? Yeah, of course, bud, no problem. Okay, so finish your homework and then go and do. So I would address it for what it is, which is sort of just a little scooting around you, but do it in a way that's calm and talk about what we expect. So I expect that when I tell you this, you go and do it then. But if you need to ask for a difference, then here's how you do that respectfully. And, find your own language, like, may I ask for a compromise, might sound a little stuffy to you. Whatever it is, just stick to the same wording, because it kind of becomes an expected cue, so to speak, that I understand what's going on here. You've asked me to do something, and Mom, I'm coming back in a respectful way, the way you've taught me, to ask, could it be a little different? Because we do need to actually teach them to do that. That's a great grown-up skill, because even in the workplace, right, you might have an employer who says, I need this report done by Friday, and you got 12 other fires going on they don't know about, and you need to be able to say, may I speak with you about that? I have multiple priorities. Which would you like me to prioritize first? So I'm teaching the skill of respectfully asking for a compromise.
Thanks, Kelly. All right, we have one more question, but I also wanted to make you aware that Kelly is also leading a parenting class.
Oh, yeah.
It's every Thursday, and it's a 10-week class, and tonight would be the second week. So you're welcome to begin going tonight or next Thursday if you'd like to begin with a third class. So she is teaching this parenting class, and she'll be focusing on a lot of the things that she touched on today. So,
yes, there is childcare. It's under the Home Builders Ministry, so they have childcare, and families are all out. We'd love to have you guys if you're interested.
All right. So one last question, and then we'll have our table discussions. Here you go.
I have a son who's almost 10, and he has ADHD and is on the autism spectrum. So the eye contact has always been an issue, and then he gets very focused on whatever he's doing, whether it's video games or reading or origami. And then I have 6-year-old triplet girls who see him, and I don't know how much of it is, similar issues or just kind of following in brother's footsteps. So what strategies can I use to address that tactfully?
Okay. I'm so glad you asked that, because your situation is unique, and it needs to be addressed uniquely with the needs of your children. And that's why I'm always trying to say, here's a generalized response, but, right? So just to answer the first part regarding your son, with the steps that I've listed here, you might want to just work on number 1 only. So you break it down and make it simpler and talk to him about, when mommy calls you, I want you to give me your eyes. Now, that's harder for him, and there's reasons behind that, but maybe you could see it improve some, right? And so then you can still do all of, a version that works for him to kind of water that positive for him, but you're breaking the skill down. So we do that with children. A lot of kids who have trauma histories, like eye contact is very difficult. It's very vulnerable for them. And so in the beginning, that might be the lead domino in and of itself. Okay? And then as far as your girls go, I don't know. Are they following brother? You're pretty outnumbered. But I think it's okay to have expectations for one that look like this and expectations for another that look like that, because being fair does not mean being the same. So if my child has the ability to do so, I'm going to teach them to do so. And if they need to understand why, is it because mom and dad think this is good for you because you can do this? And mom and dad are working with sister on this because mom and dad have decided to, and with brother on that. So everybody can have their own little goals, and they're all still working together for the bigger goal, but their goals can be different according to their needs. So fair does not mean the same. And people get kind of hung up on that. And children do too. They like to use that one, right? Well, no. Oh, yep. Okay, mom and dad are in charge, and fair does not mean the same. So here's what's going to happen. So sometimes we just have to remind everybody who's in charge, including us, right? So.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You got your hands full, but you could do it, Mama. Just break it down. Break it down. That way you're feeling more successful too, because if you're asking too much, then it's like a setup on both ends, right?
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, the parenting class is free of charge?
I believe that, I think there's like a $10 or a $20 charge for the whole 10 weeks. And you can go on Home Builder's website and see that, or I can find out and tell you tonight if you come tonight for sure. It's just because we're all kind of chipping in to help cover childcare and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then where do you guys meet?
We are meeting in the youth center upstairs. There's a room upstairs, and that's where we're meeting.
Great. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, thank you
Thanks
guys
for
for having me.
Thanks for sharing your expertise with us. All right, so you guys have some time to discuss at your tables, and 25 after, I'll have to do some announcements, so sorry it's a little bit shorter today.
Am I still on? Does anyone have 2 children and you would like my little puffs so you don't have to go to the store? Okay, I see Mama right there. I'll come to you.